putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here, KJRadio.com. We were talking about the tax cut and the surplus of almost $50 billion that we experienced in January, the first full month of December being under the new tax plan. So we've got this surplus, still got a deficit that we're running, obviously, for the year. And you could call it Trump's year. He inherited a mess, and we'll get into some of that. But and he's got a massive budget that's coming up, and we're going to discuss that separately. But I was recapping some of the reasons why Donald Trump is sort of taking this Reagan-esque bet on the economy. And I've given you a couple of things that earlier that we talked about, like the trade policy of Donald Trump is going to kick in and roar in like a tsunami. I firmly believe that. We're going to reduce our trade deficit of roughly $580, give or take, $billion down to something reasonable, and we'll use the U.S. economy to make this happen. In other words, when whatever else that Donald Trump needs to do with that economy and that deficit, he'll use it as a tool. So if he says we're going to maintain a $300 billion trade deficit with China, he's going to expect them to do something for us and deliver. Because ultimately, as he shifts manufacturing back, we will depend a lot less on the Chinese. And as we continue to innovate and do things and make things that the Chinese want, they're not going to have the capacity to fulfill it in their own manufacturing. And so, it's all a trade-off, but I think that we have the best negotiator, so to speak. But a couple of the things that haven't kicked in yet in this economy that Donald Trump is betting on are the businesses. Now, part of it did. The tax cut gave an immediate stimulus in the form of bonuses, some salary increases, and you're going to watch the Americans respond by spending money, and that's what we're kind of seeing right now. But what's ultimately going to happen is when these guys actually start building their manufacturing plants here and producing products here and expanding the tax base. What happens when a business, you get Apple that says we're going to bring something, back to the United States, and it's going to be 20,000 jobs. So people go, what's the big deal about 20,000 jobs? That's no big deal. 20,000 jobs is nothing. 20,000 jobs creates, 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 jobs. When I was calling on General Dynamics before they got bought, I don't know how many people were employed out there, but it was at least 10,000 people at the facility in Fort Worth. The businesses that lined up along there, eateries, barbecue joints, sandwich shops, dry cleaners, mechanics, etc. And then what the business that supported that business. So you had machine tool shops and all kinds of stuff. So these are the people that those businesses support. And it's at least a 2x multiplier. So if you've got 20,000 employees, you can expect 40,000 support people outside of that. The federal government is a good example. It's got X number of employees, but the number of people that support the Fed is probably a 10x multiplier, to be honest with you. So you have tons of businesses that spring up after this. These major corporations have started investing back in America because they're saying, why go overseas when the top market in the world is right in your backyard? So these immediate tax cuts and all that, are good. But the long-range implication, the jobs that get built, that get created from having to create these manufacturing plants. Think about when somebody does a manufacturing plant, they don't just add water. They got to get all types of people that get the plant going. So you're talking about a 2-year project before it even starts. Now let's say you're going to build that plant in anywhere Tennessee. All those workers are going to be working, building the plant. They're shifting gears. Now, they have to understand they got to sock their duckies away, and then, but there's going to be a glut for that type of product, for what's happening there. And you'll have people coming in temporarily to help build it, understanding that when they go back, they're going to have to go find something else to do. Meanwhile, the corporation starts staffing. So they begin the staffing thing. And then other planners, the Subway shops and the Kentucky Fried Chickens and the dry cleaners and all the national chains start springing up. You ever gone through a city and you're like, God, this little area looks like a cookie cutter of this little area, looks like a cookie cutter of this little area. All these urban planners are looking at this stuff, and that's how it happens. That's why you don't drive 50 miles to go to your mall. You'll drive 7 to 10 miles. That's why you have, it literally, it looks like a peel the onion back. I've got a convenience store. I've got, a series of strip malls. I've got the mall, and then, and you just keep branching out. And you've got all types of restaurants. It isn't like you've got the only steakhouse is I got to drive 30 miles to go to Phoenix. No. There'll be a steakhouse and a Mexican place, or there'll be in Phoenix, there'll be 16 Mexican places within a rock's throw. There'll be a couple of Chinese places, a sushi place. There'll be the fast food joints. There'll be the grocery stores and the, everything else. That's how it works. And that's the bigger piece of the business. And that's, of the tax cut. That's the part that will come in like a tsunami. And the other thing is the Trump is not going to let dollars flow out that used to go to countries that hate us. He's saying no to that. His budget is cutting the marketing machine of the left. Anyway, I want to cover the budget separately, but I just want to make people understand that a lot of the things that are going to be spur the growth in this country, even including the infrastructure piece, which I think he's allocated over $1 trillion for infrastructure. Imagine you're a highway guy, and hit roads and bridges, the people involved in that, and for the next 10 years you are gainfully employed because this money that's going to be put into infrastructure is going to go to work for you. Going to go to work for America, where we really improve our roads and bridges and really improve our national parks and really improve our airports is going to happen. But I want to look at the numbers just so you guys can put it in perspective, because let's look at what Barack Obama did. When he left office in January 20th of 2017, the deficit, or the debt rather, was $19.947 trillion, right under $20 trillion. So Barack Obama added $9 trillion to the debt because he inherited $10.6 trillion from when he took office, sworn in date to leaving date, more than any other president. And the thing that's misleading about that is he got Bush to give him $787 billion for this stimulus that was going to save the economy. Now, the reason why I want to put this in perspective is I want you to understand how much that Barack Obama added each year. So the budget deficit that Obama had in fiscal year 2009, and I believe this is correct, is roughly $1.16 trillion. Now, to put that in Trump perspective, Trump theoretically inherited a $20 trillion deficit, and it's 20.6 as I sit here today. So he's added $600 billion to the deficit as in his first year, as opposed to 1.16 trillion that was added by Barack Obama. But that doesn't include Barack Obama's begging Bush for almost $800 billion. So Barack Obama would have added almost $2 trillion to the debt, and some of its interest, by the way. And so Trump has a higher interest rate, and he's added $600 billion. But here's Barack Obama's deficits from fiscal year on. So fiscal year 10, 1.3 trillion, 11, 1.3 trillion, 12, 1.1 trillion, 13, 679, 485, 438, 585, and then he gave Trump a $666 billion deficit. So there was a rise towards the end. The rise was, it went down to 438 in fiscal year 2016. It went to 585 and then 666, and it started rising back up because Barack Obama could no longer keep a Band-Aid on the bullet hole. So what I'm getting at is this. Trump inherits an economy that was starting to rise. The deficit was starting to rise. It rose. It put $600 billion of debt in his first fiscal year, and now it's starting to erode. Okay? Now, still got big issues ahead of us. I'm not letting Trump off the hook in any way, shape, or form. This new budget is something we're going to discuss in more depth because I want to have a little bit more time to analyze it. So, and I'm not happy about it at all. It's too much money. We need to stop the spending. But I do believe that Trump is looking at it and saying, okay, I'm going to expand this, use it as a negotiation to get it down, and then eventually we'll start to cut. But I want to start seeing those cuts, or else I'm going to be talking pretty bad. I'm going to be talking some smack about President Trump's budget. Got to leave it there.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.